BNG, the ruler, street sweepers, the mafia, I mob, ENT, CEO. We are live and in full effect. Y'all already know what time it is. We are here for another episode of The Real Right Show. Today we have a very special guest, Suki T from Oaxaca. She has been moving around and conducting business on a global scale for a while. I will call her an OG. And we're going to bring her on in just a moment. But first, I want to do kind of like a reintroduction because I know that I have a lot of loyal followers, family, and friends that's watching. But I want to make sure that I reintroduce myself because I have a lot of new followers, I have a lot of new fans and supporters. So I want you guys to know who I am, where I'm from, and what I got going on. Okay. I'm originally born in Columbia, South Carolina. I've lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 10 years. I went to college for mass communications broadcasting. Got kicked out my sophomore year, but I continued to pursue my career in radio, TV, and media mass communications. So I started working at Hot Talk Radio in Atlanta, Georgia in 2016. They hired me on as a program developer and allowed me to create my own show. That was the birth of The Real Right Show. From there, I ended up getting hired at another radio station in Atlanta, Georgia, Highly Unique Radio. And I worked with both of them collectively for about 3 years. I was awarded Atlanta's hottest radio TV personality in 2019. So after that, I decided that, I had conquered Atlanta. So I moved on to Houston. Moved to Houston. I started working at Real Talk 100 Radio, which is a BDS certified radio station. And I also was working at Core 94 International Radio Station in Houston as well. All right. So I moved from there and moved to California. Lived in California for about 2 years. That is where I registered and established my LLC, my legitimate business. I've had my EIN since 2017. But I just literally registered my business in California in 2020. All right. So that's who I am. I am currently in Mexico working at the TV radio broadcasting station here. And I am blessed and highly favored to be able to be in another country and still work in the field that I've always worked in. So I'm very grateful and thankful for that. So again, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bring Suki on. I want to make sure I have all of the questions and stuff available for her. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, or if you guys want to engage, feel free to comment. I'm sure if she don't have the answer for it, more than likely she will, but I'm sure if she don't have the answer for it, we can do research and find it. But more than likely, I'm pretty sure she got us covered. She's very smart, and I had a dope conversation with her. It lasted for damn near about an hour. Very intriguing. It's kind of hard to find smart people who can communicate about a wide variety of different things. So we were able to do that. So without further ado, I would like to bring on my guest, Suki. Let's go. You ready to go? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, cool. Suki, how you
Uh,
doing?
I'm good. Thank you for that introduction. I'm an OG now.
Yeah, I mean, you've been an OG. I didn't deem
I,
you an OG. Been that. Thank you so much. Let everybody know who you are and where you're from.
well, I'm going to follow your format. So I am Suki. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, to two Haitian parents. So I'm a first generation American. And I lived in and went to school in New York City up until high school. From high school, I moved to Rockland County, lived there for a couple of years, went to Stony Brook University, graduated from there. From there, went to Benjamin Cardozo Law School, graduated from there. And then I moved to, I say loosely, we moved to Pennsylvania, lived there for 5 years, bought a house there, moved to North Carolina, bought a house there
Oh,
and lived
wow.
there for 10 years. So we started traveling 5 years into the house in North Carolina. So we just kept the house and we were doing 6 months out of the year in different countries. So our first
Correct.
country was Ecuador. And
Okay.
then from Ecuador, we did several cities in Panama, Grenada, Costa Rica, Colombia.
Wow.
I'm just trying to think where else we've been. I feel like I'm missing one, but and then obviously we're also here in the great country of Mexico. So I currently live in Oaxaca, Mexico.
Correct.
And I'm going to try to do my best not to be all rah rah Oaxaca because I'm all about Oaxaca.
Go ahead, do your thing. We gotta represent where we at,
I'm
baby.
saying Oaxaca is the best. I can't even say enough about it. Actually I'm in Puebla right now, so we came to Puebla for just the Easter holiday.
Mhm.
So I visited some different towns. We went to Cuernavaca, went to Teotitlán, went to Cholula. It's like the second time.
Mhm.
So it's only a 4 hour drive from Oaxaca.
Okay.
So it's kind of a quick, Oaxaca is like a really great older city, lots of culture, all of that. But
Right.
when I'm feeling little bit of mall life, Puebla is it, and so
Yes.
we're here for the week, and then but it's funny though, even though I'm here, the whole time I'm like, man, but the food in Oaxaca is better than this, I'm like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
but the people, so I got Oaxaca on the brain, so happy to
Right.
kind of head back home tomorrow. So that's the story. Oh, maybe a little bit more. I'm sorry. I am here, and we've been doing all of this. I'm what, three? I guess five. I'm sorry. I have 3 kids. So I've got a 26-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 9-year-old. They're all here. I'm here with my husband, and we have always traveled, and we've done everything with the kids, all businesses, everything. So I was that person. I actually tell my husband, I had her in college, so I would take her to class with me. So
Right.
I'm that person. Yeah, I slap that kid right on my back, and we're going. I
Yes.
don't.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't worry about the whole where the kid's going to be. They're going to be right next to me, and that's just
That's
what it is.
good. Yes. Yes. I love that. So this is not one of the questions on the list, but I feel like
That's
I gotta
okay.
ask you because
All right.
it's kind of how I am. Do you do market research in different cities or countries prior to your travel there, or do you just kind of go off of um, ads or somebody else's references or suggestions? Do you do market research for specific countries or areas?
So I don't do a lot.
Mhm.
So part of it is because back when we first started, there was really not much there. So you just kind of
Right.
had to go.
Mhm.
And I tend to find that um, I don't want to color my experience by
Right.
somebody else's thoughts.
Yes.
So for me, it's I'm going to go and I'm going to be me, and then I'm going to have my experience. So even when I talk to people about my experience, I always say, this is my experience.
Have your
This
own
might
experience.
That's right. This might have nothing to do with you.
Right.
I feel pretty confident that, and actually, I think my husband feels more confident than me on some of this. But it's that even if I get into a problem, we're going to get out of it. And
Mhm.
so I have enough resources. I have enough, phone calls and things that I can make to get out of it. So one
Right.
time we were in Costa Rica and we were accused of being, what country did they say? Cuban drug runners. So Interpol
Oh,
stops us,
wow.
and the kids are lined up. So we're all lined up. So me, I'm thinking, can we bribe someone? Like, what are we gonna
We
do
got to
here?
pay.
Yeah. I was
We
like,
got to pay.
I can pay. I'll pay you. Like, we are not. But my husband, I had to say, he was real calm. He was like, no, no, sir, we are not Cuban. And he was like, yeah, when's the last time you've been to Cuba? And we were there for like an hour, but the whole time, I knew the name of a lawyer who
Mhm.
was a Costa Rican lawyer who had just talked about you can call him anytime and if you run into an issue.
That's a
And I had
good
written down his
look.
name. Yeah, so I was ready. So I'm thinking about the bribe, and then I'm thinking about the lawyer, then I'm thinking about my mother. I'm like, my mother will send the money, she'll
All the
get us out of
options.
here.
All the
Yeah, so
options.
so even though in my mind that's all the stuff that's going on, outwardly I was just like, the kids are like, what's going on? I was like, oh, nothing, they're just talking to us.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
it was a little bit more than talking. So I just feel like whatever it is, as a general matter, we're easygoing people. We don't cause problems. We don't come at people.
Right.
So, even if you drop us in the middle of the hood, unless they're actively shooting, we're going to be okay.
You're gonna find a way out, right? That's good to know, because I'm kind of the same way, especially when it comes to talking to people about different locations here. Have your own experience. You can't really go off of the media and what somebody else heard or what somebody shared
Mhm.
on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, because a lot of times people are vibrating on certain frequencies and they attract certain situations. And then not only that, you don't want to um, determine your outcome off of someone else's, because everybody's story don't end well. Everybody's story doesn't develop the same. So how and why did you make the move to Mexico? Because globe trotting, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Ecuador, Grenada, Costa Rica. What is it that was like Mexico and then Oaxaca specifically?
Okay. So we had, once we did Ecuador, that was the first time that I realized, oh, we could do this. Like we could live outside the States.
Outside of the country, yes.
Yeah. And for me, I tend to be somebody who, I pay a lot of attention to things that are going on. And when you talk about frequency and vibration, for me, that's actually something that's very strong. Like I feel like I can walk into a room and I can feel when people are feeling,
Yes.
anxiety, that kind of
It's
thing.
like you can read in the room. They call it
Yes.
read the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
I'm in a place where everyone is full of anxiety, it just feels like a burden for me. So when we
Yes.
went to Ecuador, that burden lifted. Like it was like I was lighter.
Right.
I was just walking through air, and I was like, oh, this is not about moving so much as it was about one thing I always say to people before they move anywhere: figure out who you are in that place.
Right.
And when I left, I saw who I was, and I felt like I was a definite better version of myself, and I liked that version of myself. And
Yes.
so that point we started talking about, okay, how are we going to do this? Now with kids, it's obviously a little bit more complicated. You've got to think about
Correct.
schools and things like that. So it was, and at that point you start with your checklist. So we were actively looking from the time that we left Ecuador. And my checklist, it grew over time, but basically I'll share my checklist with you because other people may want to have a checklist when they're thinking about a place. So
Hmm.
because my son ran into a health issue when we got into Quito, it turns out he has altitude sickness, which we had no idea about.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I
And see, you would have
understood.
never known until you actually was in the situation to for it
That's
to
right.
happen.
Yeah. And he had to be hospitalized for altitude sickness. I never even heard of altitude sickness.
And you
So
right, me. This is the first time it came across my desk.
yeah, no, it's a real thing. Like, some
Yeah.
people, like he came off the plane and he basically just fell out.
Oh
And
wow.
we had to go immediately to the hospital, and I'm thinking it's the plane food. I'm ready to blame whoever we just got off the plane from, but it wasn't the plane food at all. But they knew what to do because they'd seen it before. So, now I have a rule about being within a 10-15 minute drive to a hospital.
Right.
Um, I had the rule about the police station. That's kind of touch and go. It's not as big of a deal now for me as it used to be because my concept of how police work and help is kind of different now that I've lived in the
Yeah, because
countries.
you've been experienced to a different type of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they're good. I mean, we've had, I've had such great experiences with the police. It's unbelievable. But have been being near a police station is no longer on my list, but it was in the beginning.
Because you want to
Um,
be safe. Shit.
yeah, that was my thinking at first. But I have to say that I miss. I'm just trying to think of the right word. I didn't quite get what it meant to be safe, and how you can be safe until I lived in the different countries. And so the short
Right.
version of safety is your neighbors are actually your safest point. If you have a strong neighborhood watch, things of that, they are going to come out the woodwork and they are the first people there if anything happens to you.
Yes.
And they're going to get there before the police. So whatever happens is going to happen, and you're going to be laying there like, you'll be bleeding to death before somebody shows up. So honestly, it's actually about your community and your neighbors. That's what makes you safer. Being close to a police station doesn't really, at least here, doesn't really
Right.
necessarily equate safety. So it took me some time to kind of learn that. Um, over time I started to understand, and this is probably kind of the growing up in New York City deal. I need museums, I need a movie theater. I've lived in some
Yes.
backwoods where there's nothing.
A
And
mall or something.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be big because Oaxaca, it's not like we have, we're the most modern, but I've lived in places where the closest hospital is 45 minutes. There's no movie theater, there's no museum, there's no library. You think you can live off the grid, and some people can, but I realized that I'm not an off the grid person like
Like
that.
completely off the grid. No,
Yeah, I'm
I gotta
not.
be around some type of life.
Yeah, so that wasn't me, and I'm good for a good karaoke from time to time, so there's just some things that I needed, and so it was like lifestyle. So that's kind of why I say to people, again, know who you are in that country first, then
Correct.
decide where you want to be,
To
and
be
do
exactly
3 6 months at a time. At first, everything is exciting, it's like, yeah, this is great, and then there are the little things that start to annoy you, and
yes.
you're in the place you want to be where you're still annoyed. It's like kids, you're annoyed, but you're not leaving them,
But you're
and
not.
it's like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you get to that space, then that's how Oaxaca happened. Oaxaca was a complete accident. We were living briefly in Greenville, South Carolina at the time, and we were just there to
Oh,
send my
you've been
son on a.
all over my area.
I'm
North
saying
Carolina and South
Greenville's all right.
Carolina.
I'm
I'm
actually
from
digging Greenville.
Columbia, so
Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
were right up the street.
Yes, I was doing the Swamp Rabbit Trail, all the time, walking it. So
Yeah,
we were
he's
actually
moving
there.
around. Yeah.
Yes. During COVID, we were there, and it was accidental. I mean, we were only supposed to be there long enough to send my first son off to college. And, then COVID happened. And, I was like, oh, Americans can't be kept down. No, I had my plane ticket. I was ready. We were moving to Medellin, Colombia.
Mhm.
And then they started shutting everything down, and I still was in la la land. I was like, oh, just a month, just
Everything's gonna
fine.
be okay.
Yeah, I
Let's
was like,
do it.
it's
Just
gonna be
extend it for
okay.
another month.
Yeah, I was like, no, I was like, you can't keep Americans down. Well, I was wrong. So the day that I remember that I was like, we have to get out of here, was the day they actually shut down the Swamp Rabbit Trail. And we had been walking that trail every day because we lived across the street from the trail.
Mhm.
And it's like, yo, when they're shutting down the park, I was like, no way. And then, I started feeling again that I hadn't felt in 10 years. Everybody fighting,
Right.
everybody mad. And then I started having the double talk in my head again. And I was like, okay, I'm not that person, and I'm not going to be
Yes.
that person again.
Especially when you know
So
you grew from that person. And
yeah. I
yeah,
wasn't a mad person. I'm not mad about anything,
yeah.
So then when they were going to be go back to being mad and angry and questioning everybody's motives when they're talking to me and all that extra stuff, I wasn't doing that. I said to my husband, I was like, we got to go, and I'm not somebody who does cold, but I was like, it could be Greenland, whatever. I'll get some coats and we just got to go. Like wherever it is, we got to go.
Yeah, we gotta
Turns
get
out
that out.
Mexico, yeah, we just got to get out of here. So Mexico was open, which was great. And we ended up going to Puerto Escondido, because we were like, at this point, we've been inside, stuck. We just need to be on a beach, not really do anything, and then wait for Colombia to open up its doors. And in
Right.
the meantime, I was actually working on the residency for Colombia. So once we got the residency officially, I'd be able to go anyway.
It was a
So
good
we
move. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So we get to Puerto, and we're there 3 months. It was great. I still love Puerto. Fantastic place. And then we realized, you have to start working. You can't just bum on the beach forever. At some point,
Right.
the bills still come every month, no matter what, you're doing or not doing.
Correct.
So we started trying to work anyway. And the internet at the time was it just
Not
wasn't
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was not a place for working. I remember I had a meeting one time and the internet went out. And this was the first time that I'd experienced it. So I didn't understand what that meant in Puerto, but what it
Mhm.
means in Puerto is the phone stopped working. Like everything is shut down. You can't call a taxi, like nothing. Couldn't
Oh
call home to
wow.
say, the internet's down, I'm going to be late. I couldn't call the people who I was supposed to have a meeting with to say I'm not going to be there because I couldn't even call. You can't even call 911. I was like, okay, that's not gonna
It's a
work.
no.
Yeah,
It's
no,
a
that's a
no.
no. Not for working. Yeah, you can't. And and I'm not somebody who does heat very well. Like I'm. It's crazy, right? Being like I'm supposed to be an island child, but too much heat. It's like 1 o'clock. I'm like nap time, and I have to sleep for 2-3 hours
I
until
prefer
it
a
gets.
mild. Give me a mild temperature.
Yeah. So I'm definitely mild. So we were asking someone, look, where can we go for better internet? They said you should go to Oaxaca. I'd never heard of Oaxaca. I didn't even know I was in Oaxaca State at the time. So that's mildly embarrassing. And so I'm trying to spell it. I'm like WAK, like
Right,
what's I can't find it. I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. Like I just want to go get some internet. So somebody takes pity. They finally, tell us how to spell it. So all I knew about Oaxaca was enough to spell it to buy the plane ticket. That's it.
right. And
So
I'll
we
figure everything else out when I get
I
there.
was like, we get there because I wasn't thinking about staying anyway. So, I do some research, but I didn't do anything on Oaxaca.
Right,
So we get to Oaxaca and we come off the plane, and it was the craziest thing. I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. Now, the thing is, if you ever come to Oaxaca and get off the plane, it's not beautiful, right? Like the road from the airport to where you're going, it's
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 like a
just
long road,
okay.
just
Yeah.
dirt. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's dirt, and then the stores on the side. It's just okay. I mean, it's really nothing to move you. So I
right.
look back and I'm like, that's weird. It's almost weird that I was so like I was moved. It was like
Mhm.
light. It was like So 2-3 weeks later, and I shocked my husband because I'm always the one who's like, we got to stay focused. We have a plan. Stick to the plan. And I was like, you know what? We're home. And he's like, wow, because I'm not that person. I don't switch plans off a lot, this that, like I stick to the plan and I
Correct.
execute.
Yes.
So it was just a really strong feeling, and to this day that feeling hasn't gone anywhere. Even
Mhm.
when I leave, I have like it's about a week for me, 2 weeks tops. Even a week, I'm like, oh, I've been away from home too long. 2
Right.
weeks is like
Start
a
getting
struggle.
homesick.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get back, and I'm comparing everything. I'm comparing the food, I'm comparing the people, I'm comparing the
Right.
streets. We went to Cuernavaca. I was like, oh no, this is no Oaxaca. But even other people there we're talking to, and they're
Mhm.
like, where are you guys from? I was like, well, we live in Oaxaca. And they're like, why are you here? You're from Oaxaca? Like, why would you come out here? I was like, yo, it was a drive, So we just took the drive and went to the city. They were like, nah, this is where you want to go. You don't want to be here. They were right.
Right.
So we ended up going to Table Slime, which is actually really nice. But again, still no Oaxaca. So that's why I say when I say you've got to find your place, it's 10 years of living in different places.
Yes. Oh my God. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Oh, oh, you lost me.
Okay,
Okay, I'm
cool.
back.
I don't know what
Okay.
happened. Good,
Yeah.
good, good, good.
So it was 10 years. That's why I tell people take your time for real. And it's fun anyway, going to different places and seeing different things. And you pick up something from every country,
Yes.
the guinea pig in Ecuador, the hoppy from Panama, the how can I forget my Colombian there's like a corn thing that they do in Colombia that I can't remember right this second. But my arepas from Colombia. So, you kind of pick up different things from the different countries,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you really start paying attention to people. And it's really
Yes.
liberating because you stop categorizing people as people. You really deal with people as individuals,
Correct.
and you see them and you watch them see you, and that's just beautiful. So don't deny yourself the experience of being seen, being
Yes.
heard, being an individual.
Yes.
Even if you've got a home base, absolutely take some time and go do a little bit of time in the different places because you're just a richer person, for it.
Yes. And the more that you experience, I really do believe the more that you experience, especially like in another country,
Mhm.
the more you learn about yourself. Because
Yes.
a lot of the stuff that I've done in Mexico since I've been here, I would have never done in the States. Right. And I was able
Yeah.
to literally, like, it has empowered me on so many different levels, like spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. I was able to get so much done. And I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be in this space. And I honestly also believe that Mexico chooses you to a degree as well.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely.
once you find your space or your place, or your place finds you, things literally just naturally flow. And God, the universe, whatever you consider, will literally start putting people, places, and things in your path to help you execute certain things where you're at. So that was one of the things that helped me solidify my positioning here, because I'm like, well, everything is working out. Like everything is working in my favor. Like, how did I? So, like how you were saying the way that you felt, I felt kind of the same. I was so at ease. I felt light. I felt free. I felt comfortable. I felt safe. I felt empowered. The first time that I went into the TV radio station here, my friend invited me because he works there. And when I first went, my life just like literally flashed before my eyes. Like, and that's when I had that purposeful moment. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're where you're supposed to be. And like yesterday, I was shooting my music video, and I kept hearing, "You're safe, you're safe, you're safe."
Very nice.
And I was like, wow. So with your kids, right? So it's great to have that you have your kids. And I'm always telling people, even when it comes to like my brothers and sisters, I'm always like, man, bring my nieces and nephews too, right? Because they deserve to experience it. Even though, we didn't experience it as kids, it's up to us to make sure that, our offspring or our nieces and nephews, have a different life, or, are raised a different way. So do they homeschool, or are they in the Mexico public school?
So the 26, she went with us. We did summers when she was by the time we started, I think she was maybe 16. So we just waited out. We spent the summers out, but we waited for her to go to college. The kid number two, the reason I kept my house in North Carolina is because we were able to enroll him in North Carolina virtual school.
Okay,
So
cool.
in order to do that, you have to be a resident. And in order to be a resident, you have to physically be present on United States soil for 183 days. So I'd count my days exactly. It was not a
And
day over
physically have an
183,
address.
and
Yeah,
physically have an address. So we just
yeah.
kept the house open. So he went to virtual school, but actually a few of the places, particularly in Panama, they had a bunch of kids from a bunch of different places. So he would go to a place where other homeschool kids were, and then he would do his work there with the other kids.
There with the other kids,
So
right?
yeah, so he got the best of both worlds in that
Hmm.
he was still interacting with people,
With
but
other
at
kids,
the same
yes,
time, yeah, I knew that I could like because I was concerned about how the degree might be seen. I knew we were moving around, so I didn't want to enroll him in a school. He makes friends, then he leaves, that kind of thing. And
right.
once you talk about other kids who are transient as well, he's really with
Correct.
people who are having the same experience.
Mhm.
Kid number three is someone that we did enroll in school. And so he's actually going to school in different countries. And the kid's personality kind of matters. Kid number one, he's
Yes.
halfway social. Kid number two, not feeling people as a general matter. He could not talk to anybody and be just really good with life. So the whole you go work there was as much as he was willing to give me. He was not going to go and entertain, being in a school that he's not doing that. Kid number three, very social. So, and he's like real
Mhm.
adaptable, So I would put him in a school, everybody speaking Spanish. Sometimes he didn't understand, and it was all good with him. He was just like, okay, and he would just go.
Right.
So he went to Catholic school in Panama. He's been to private schools in the different countries. In Colombia, I had a nanny. So she spoke French, English, and Spanish. So and she
Oh
took him
wow,
out to
she's well versed.
yeah, she was really well versed, and she took him out to different
Yeah.
places in Medellin, so that was really good.
Okay.
But then when we settled in Mexico, he does go to school. He goes to a Waldorf school because I definitely also understand that And I saw Lisa post something yesterday, maybe it was the day before, where she talked about what if she's no longer normal, right? By the
Right.
time we do this, we've left normal behind.
Yeah,
And
we're
not
not
only
even.
we're
Yeah.
off normal, right?
Yeah.
And so we're not normal. And if you're raising kids, they're not going to be normal too, because what's going to happen
Either.
is
Yes.
they're having a completely different experience
Yes.
than what normal people are having.
They are
So
completely immersed in a whole nother culture.
they are. And I found the term for this. Someone told it to me the other day. They're third culture kid. So
Wow,
they were
okay.
born in one culture and then you're raised in another and then your parents are of another. That makes you a third culture kid. And they actually even have groups for third culture kids. So like there's like a dating
Yes,
WhatsApp group for these people because they grew up in a way that's very different than most
very
people.
different. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna have to sign him up to that because he's definitely a
Yeah,
third culture
ready.
kid.
Look, you ready. You about to
I
start the
am.
group. About to start the group
I
now.
mean, listen, Mexican them. You gotta like, well, the group exists already, so I just gotta sign him up. But I understood that he was gonna have a different experience anyway, so we enrolled him in a Waldorf school where the focus is on you as a person, being a good person, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I
Social
just really
skills.
believe, yeah, we have a tendency to tell kids one thing and we do things totally different. We tell them don't be violent, don't use guns, blah blah blah. They turn on the TV, the cartoons are shooting. It's like we're such hypocrite.
Right.
The
Yes,
hypocrisy is incredible
it's true.
with what they see.
You don't want your kids to do it, but you're watching shit or they're seeing it. So
Them
yeah,
don't fight. All they have to do is watch a political debate. So that's what he's doing with the school. So I just say when it comes to schooling, number one, know your kid, right?
right.
There are tons of options: public school, private school, halfway school, homeschool. There's even world schooling. Liz Kwan is someone who I've been kind of in touch with since probably 8 years now, since Columbia. I've watched her daughters grow up. It's the funniest thing. She
Mhm.
world schools her kids, and they have a program called Galileo, and it's kids who world school, and then you can actually do classes though on Galileo. So if your kid is somebody who's also moving around with you, there's the consistency of being in the classes with those
Wow.
kids. And what they do sometimes is they'll meet in different cities, so they're actually
For like
trying to have,
meetups and stuff.
exactly, so they're
Damn, that's
trying to have
dope.
sister cities. So when my place is finally open, I definitely am going to sign up to be a sister
Incorporate
city
that.
for
Yes.
them there so that kids can come out and do Oaxaca for a summer as part of kind of their world schooling.
That's a great idea.
So yeah, so there's so many options as a parent. Like it's limitless. Like it doesn't make a difference, if your kid, like my son, at least son number two, he's very artistic. He's very, works with his hands, that kind of thing. So I have enrolled him in art. He's been doing art for 3 years. He does piano and the recorder. So that's just the kind of kid that he is. He's not a kid who would be sitting in a classroom 8 hours a day. They'd be calling me
Right.
all the time. He'd be
Right.
suspended. It'd be out of control. And then when you think about it as a parent, right now his viewpoint of himself is everybody loves him and life is good, right?
Right.
He's in another environment where they're asking him to sit 8 hours a day. He's getting in trouble. He's getting suspended, all of that. He starts feeling like he's a bad person. Same kid, different
Right.
environment.
Different environments.
That's right.
Exactly.
So your kid's the seed. It's your job just to choose the soil in which you will
Yes.
plant that seed.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. And I'm glad that I asked that question because I really think that like it's one thing for us to be here, right? And well, I don't have any kids, but it's one thing to be here and people to see, life through my eyes, but to see it from someone else, see it through someone else's eyes that look like them, a mother, a married couple with children, or someone who
Mhm.
has kids or teenagers, the fact that they're able to see the life through your eyes and you're showing them that hey, it is possible, it wasn't a
Yep.
hard transition. Look, they're taking Spanish lessons, they're taking piano lessons, karate lessons, they're active in the community, they don't have to go to those
Yep.
schools, they can homeschool, there
No.
are options. That is what this is for, so I really appreciate that. Now, what are some things that you and your husband do to keep the marriage alive and to keep that family aspect alive? I know you said that you bring the kids along for, you know, the projects and the going out to eat and stuff like that. But what are some things that you and your husband do to keep your marriage intact and then keep that family aspect together as well?
Well, first off, we drop off those kids faithfully. So I always look for the nanny or the drop off. Yeah, I mean, because you need your time, And matter of fact, we're here in Puebla. It's probably been 15 years since I've shared a room with the kids when we go. Like if we go someplace, they've got their
They
room and
got
we've
their
got
own
ours.
room.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I'm on vacation. I can't be bothered with whatever you guys got going on.
But that's good because it gives them their space to be creative and it gives you your
That's
time
it.
and your space to handle your business, so yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So they go. So last night we snuck out on them and we went down to a bar, that's like right around the way. So we're drinking mezcal with the people. We met some actor from Narcos, as a matter of fact. So we're drinking some Alejandro. I don't watch Narcos. So he was like, his girlfriend says to us, he's really modest. He's a really well-known actor from Narcos. I'm like, okay, I'm saying no
Right,
thing.
right,
So let's have
cool.
some
Okay.
mezcal then. All
There,
right.
let's have a
You know,
drink. You're right,
he's
right.
telling me about movies he did with Tom Cruise and this, that. So I'm like, all right, we're drinking, we're happy. And and it was good, and so they don't know we went because sometimes, kids, they start acting
Y'all
funny like the
grown. Y'all don't
parents.
have to tell them everything.
Yeah,
Shit.
so yeah, seriously. So we were like, shh, go by the room real quiet so they don't hear us.
Yeah.
He's like, what if they open the door? I was like, we're just gonna say we were sleeping,
Oh
so
wow.
so we definitely, and some of it is a little bit of luck, I suppose, because there's
Yes.
17-year difference between my daughter and my son, and they love each other. Like they love spending time with each other, and she lives in Mexico too. So he goes to her house every weekend. So on the
Oh, she got her
weekends we
own crib
go.
already.
Oh, she does, please. After 18, the bird's got to fly the
Oh,
nest. I
that's
don't do that.
good. Babysitter
Oh yeah,
on
yeah.
deck.
I'm saying yes.
Go to your sister's
Birds
house.
fly. Yes, yes. Your home, my. We have a great relationship because we don't live together, right? Because if we did, I don't
Yes.
know. It'd be touch and go. So he goes over there, and on the weekends, we do all kinds of things. Sometimes we go away, we do karaoke, we go to different
Yes.
bars, that kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
So we do that. The other thing that
You live life.
obviously
Kind of
is,
the same thing that
yeah,
you some of the same things that you did back in the States, but just in a different way and in a different environment.
yes, and I probably do it more here because I can afford it more here, quite honestly. So here it's
Right.
like every weekend. In the States, I might have been like, oh,
Yes.
1 week in a month, So it's
Yes.
just a different, thought process. I will
Yes.
say that probably what also has been very good for us is we've always been in business together,
Mhm.
and so it's we don't have like we are the most important people in each other's lives. He is
Correct.
my best friend.
Right.
And so, and we have a couple of hardline rules that we do not ever cross, and we've never
The
done.
boundaries.
We have never said
Yeah.
we've never said the D word to each other, and it doesn't matter how mad we might be. We might be not be talking for a week or so, but it doesn't make a difference. That is
What,
something that's
like
never on
damn?
the table.
Like
No, like
damn?
divorce.
Oh, okay, okay,
Oh
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
the D word.
Nah, nah.
like that. No, not damn. Even though I
Nah.
must say we've never said damn either because we don't curse at each other, so that's probably a
Okay,
boundary.
that's
And
healthy.
then
That's a healthy relationship.
yes,
Yes.
so it's like
Yeah.
sometimes people think that a relationship means no boundaries. It means you could just do anything, say anything. There's this whole
No.
idea of I should just be free or whatever it is, right? And I actually disagree. I think the boundaries are really important. And the second
Yes.
boundary that we don't cross is we do not talk about our marriage like in any issues outside of
Mhm.
each other.
Outside of the home. Yes, you're not supposed to.
So
Hell
it
no.
just doesn't happen. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And so we
Yes.
can, because then we can get past whatever the issue is together and not have to think about, oh, does somebody know this, that? So we just don't do that, and I think
Right.
that
That's good.
for us has been really important. And it's not
Yes.
to say that it's always easy or anything like that. I think the real word is the C word, which is commitment. The same way we're committed to our kids is the same way we're committed to each other.
Hey, to
And
each
so what
other.
that means
Yes.
is if there's an issue, we're going to have to work through it.
Yes. And you're gonna have to
There's no such
communicate. I
thing
think
as we'll
that
work
is
through it.
you're gonna have to communicate. And I
Yes.
think that's good. I think that is great, not only just for the relationship, but for the business as well. And I think that it is a beautiful thing that you guys have these rules and that you guys have these boundaries and that you guys have this effective communication because that is what I feel like is what makes the foundation of the relationship lasts longer. It makes, you know what I'm saying, the fact that you're able to communicate, the fact that you're able to talk it out and set these rules and these boundaries, and you honor each other and the relationship enough not to cross those boundaries.
Yes. And then the thing I should say too is that people change, right? We have
Yes.
changed drastically. Like we met in high school. We are not the same people that we were in high
Oh, that's
school, right?
beautiful.
But we're just different people and we've evolved. And there's sometimes there are different things that we need and want. There was a point I went to my husband and I was like, you know what? I know I shocked him. I was like, I hate washing dishes. And I know he was just like, what? It's been 20 years. You never said anything,
Right.
And I was like, I'm just not interested like that. And I'm not interested in doing so much, housework and things like that. Like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get somebody to
A
help me
cleaning
and to
lady.
really do these
Yes.
things. Yeah. I was like, I'm just not interested. And before,
I have
I guess I
one.
probably didn't even realize either. I'm saying, the kids used to be my
And
people.
it's just
So
me.
that's why, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the kids used to be the dishwashers and things. So I probably didn't even notice myself. But then when the kids got older and I lost my dishwasher, I lost my grass cutter, I was like, wait a minute, I don't like this at all. And it's
Right.
something that I'm sure surprised him. And I think that's part of it too. Like as you're even realizing things about yourself, you definitely communicate that. And it might be a
Yes.
surprise
Correct.
to your partner, right? And he might be taken aback a little bit, right? Or she, it's like, okay, I didn't know this about you. But it's really about accepting that you're changing, accepting that they're changing. So I wouldn't want
Yes.
anyone to think that a long marriage means you stayed to the exact same person and all of that. You don't. I mean, hopefully you're evolving in some
Hmm.
way. They are evolving in some way. And it's literally like your
Right.
kids, right? Your kid, when
Yes.
they're two, it's all cute. They're, mommy, I love you. That's wonderful. And then, they turn into these psycho aliens. They're
Are
yelling, they're
talking
screaming,
back
they're saying all
and
kinds of stupidity to you. And you're just like, man, I remember when you didn't speak, and it was pretty
right.
good, and I'm now you're talking, and I wish you weren't. But you
Right.
don't say to yourself, as this kid is evolving, I'm done. That's not what you do. You adapt with the kid. And so your
Right.
relationship with your kid is very different from when they were two, from when
Yes.
they're
That is
26.
beautiful.
And it's the same thing in the marriage. Your relationship with kids is probably going to be different without kids. It's going to be different with older kids, smaller kids, different countries, all of that. So,
Mhm.
never go in thinking if I make a change means that I've got to change him too or her
Right.
too to go because, I can't be who I want to be
That
freely,
anymore.
you know?
Yes. I like the fact that you think that way because it gives your partner, it gives your children room to evolve and to grow and figure out who they are, and then being in another cultural experience, being in another country, you're being exposed to new things every day. So you're definitely not going to be the same person you was, when you
No.
were in the States. You might find a whole nother talent or a whole nother skill that, you found interest in that you probably would have never been exposed to back in the States. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Now that we've talked about your journey, we've talked about um, your marriage a little bit. We've talked about homeschooling. Let's start talking about real estate and developing in Mexico. Now, I'm sure it was a process, and I know it took some time. So buying and developing in Mexico can be challenging. If you can, could you kind of let us know of any challenges that you might have faced during the process?
We would need like 10 hours. That's why the course exists, I mean, the
Just a
challenges
couple of them.
were,
Just a couple of them.
yes.
Just a couple of 'em.
But actually, I want to start before the challenges.
Okay. The vision of actually
Because
having
that's
the
a little bit
co-working
about
space.
research.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the course came about because when I get annoyed, it's kind of funny because I've done this a couple of times. When I get really upset about something, I'm like, we got to do something about this because I'm really ticked off. So 8 years ago, I was really ticked off about business, and there were a couple who were out of their minds. So I ended up writing a book about the how to create a at the time it was during SES, and so how
Mhm.
you had a government contract for tutoring companies. So I ended up writing a book on how to do that exactly, and then how to get the contract, how to fund it, all of that. And
Oh,
it
wow.
came out from this one person who, she completely, like, she put me in a situation where she was lying about watching the kids, and if I hadn't caught it in time, I would have been guilty of committing a federal crime. And I was
Yes. Oh,
really,
wow.
I was really upset about that. And it was like,
Yeah, because see, that's why people don't
you
even
know,
like
that's a big.
let
They were
people.
arresting teachers in Atlanta dealing with
Yeah,
government stuff,
that's crazy.
because yeah.
Mhm.
And so I will say that some of the challenges, if we're going to talk about it in principle, it's actually a little bit of the same. It's almost never the business; it's always the people.
Correct.
And it's one of the things that I will say. People will say things like trust but verify. I would tell you, don't even trust, and
Verify.
just like start from the beginning in the
Yes.
verification. And I'd start from the other end. I'd say assume, don't assume that because you're in a culture where people are really nice, people are friendly, they speak to you, all of
Right.
that. People help you. Like for me, I can't even tell you how much the Mexican people have helped me. I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, there have
Yeah,
been
that's
times
dope.
I am like, wow,
Yes.
this is
Blown
unbelievable.
away. Seriously,
People are
yes.
just coming out the woodwork. They're not even
Yes.
asking me if I need help. They're just giving me the help.
Just giving it like they just know sometimes. Seriously.
Yeah, so I'm like, it's been a beautiful, like, dealing with people one on one, and when there's not really money involved, the relationship is borderline spiritual. The second you start talking about pesos, money, yeah, you've got to separate, you've got to understand now you're in business mode, even if you're not doing a business,
Right.
because now, and they're human beings, right? They've got things that they have to consider as well. They have to consider their families and people they're taking care of
Yes.
and all of that.
Their bills and
Their
yes.
bills, yes. So their dealing with you is colored by everything else that's going on in their lives. And
Right.
so, just like, my husband is a recruiter, we own a recruiting company in Charlotte. And one of the things that he does, particularly in the first conversation, is he's in people's business. Like, he asks all the questions. You do need to understand their family situation to at least begin to make an accurate assessment of how they're going to deal with you. If you tell
Correct.
me right in the beginning that, you've got, problems paying your car and all this other things, and then I'm about to hire you for something, I already know the deal. You're going to try to overcharge me. You're going to try to get more from me over time because you're dealing with a lot of other things,
Correct.
and so getting to know people is pretty important. And I think the second challenge I had was actually language. Not that I didn't understand what they were saying to me technically. It
Hmm.
was more like the meaning was not quite what was really being communicated.
Clear.
So
Right. Right.
yes, so
Right. Right.
people
Right.
would say things to me like, I'm really sad, I'm muy triste, but they weren't sad. They were actually ticked off. But that's not what they
Right.
said. So I'm here. I'm thinking, well, why are you sad? Like, what I'm saying, like, we're just,
Right. Right.
like, it just wasn't connecting for me,
Mhm.
and not understanding the nuance a little bit of the language. And even though the word is not quite what is meant,
What is meant.
it
Right.
was
Right. Right. Right.
also a challenge. Understanding culturally that people do not like telling you no. I cannot think right now of the last time that a Mexican person said no to me. They will happily tell me yes. And a whole lot of times it is no. Hey, are you going to be open 8 o'clock? Oh yeah, but your sign says you close at 7. Please tell me why you're telling me you're not
They're open.
going to be
They're open
open.
for you.
Just say no. But it's like, so I had to learn to ask questions differently. I don't ask yes and no questions anymore. I don't even lead the question. I'm like, what do you think about this? And then it's real open ended. And that's how I can get the most honest answer. But it was very difficult, getting straight answers from people. And then I had to ask really short questions. I'm like, hey, did you go to the store? Oh, blah,
So,
blah, blah.
like,
Like
if
it's
they're
20
not
minutes later.
gonna
You
be
told me everything
like,
about the road.
yes,
Yeah. So it's like, and I'm like, look, into the store. I
very
don't want to know if there
direct.
were dogs on the street. Yeah, I don't want to know if it was sunny or if it was raining. Like, I actually don't care. All I want to know is, did you go and did you get what I needed?
Did you get it
Period.
right?
But it was very difficult for me at
Mhm.
first, to kind of grasp the understanding language barrier and the cultural barrier. And then there was the third part, I think, of sometimes with foreigners, we're treated we're treated not bad, but like differently. So sometimes people will say to you, "Oh, you don't want to be in that space, or you don't want to be in that neighborhood," not because it's not a good neighborhood, because there are no other foreigners in that neighborhood, and because
Right,
they're
or
thinking
because
to
there's
themselves,
yes, yes, yes,
they
yes.
would feel uncomfortable if they went into a neighborhood
They
where
would
there
have
were
had
no
to.
other Mexican people. So they're looking out for you by saying, no, these are the 4 or 5 places that you want to be. Now, it turns out those 4 or 5 places will tend to be the most expensive places in town, because that's where everybody's
That's where
funneled
everybody
into.
is.
And you have to, that's where they are. And they're funneled. They're there because they were told to be there. That's really the only reason.
Right.
It's not,
Yes.
there's not, because there are lots of Mexican neighborhoods that are beautiful, nice, beautiful homes, the whole deal. I mean, there's
Hmm.
nothing, there's no security issue, there's nothing. And there are a ridiculous number of wealthy Mexicans. Like, the number is, fairly incredible. And they're not living in the foreign neighborhoods with you. They're living in their neighborhoods, safe, sound,
Well,
and
I know I'm in
happy.
a
But
nice
guess what?
I'm in a nice area, and I'm probably one of the only, African indigenous out here. And it's a nice neighborhood. It's a gated community. So I would say the same, and when I first got here, I was in the uh high end, I guess, as to say, area, beachfront condo, and it was more on the expensive side, because that's where everybody was. You know what I'm saying? It's centro. So, but as you
Centro
said,
de.
like, the longer you stay and the more you get connected and the more you communicate and the more people you meet, the more they will start referring you to places, and oh, I have a friend, or I know a friend, and
Yep.
the more you get out and you start looking yourself, because I've noticed that some people travel in certain neighborhoods to find real estate and to find places. I wouldn't suggest, just going to any random neighborhood, but
No,
some
no.
people actually do it, and they're successful in their findings. But I personally wouldn't suggest that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Go with the referral, word of mouth. It just
Yeah.
the random, you're there, because every neighborhood got its own thing, right? Some neighborhoods is
Yeah.
cool during the day, but at night things get sketchy.
To be,
You just don't
yes.
know.
Right,
So you
right.
really, and what I do is, like, I read the newspaper. In my particular neighborhood, we have a group WhatsApp, and they're always WhatsApping all day long. It's like, this happened, this, da, 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 da. The dog, this person let their dog poop in front of my door. My camera caught you. Please come get your dog poop. It's sometimes it's like, we didn't have to get that petty. Like, you didn't have to put her on full blast on WhatsApp. You could
Right.
have probably sent her a private message and said, hey, can you get your dog poop? But it's really definitely understanding, what I'm saying, the neighborhood. So I just
Yes.
find that those are probably the biggest challenges. It's
Mhm.
the funneling,
Language.
and, and it's a little bit of the money, and like I said, I want to kind of go back just a second for you. So right now, the dollar, I know, the dollar has been falling
Yes.
against the peso,
Yes, it
right?
is.
But more importantly, when you actually watch what's happening with currencies, you've got Russia and China making a deal to no longer have to trade in dollars. You've got OPEC saying they're looking to remove the dollar as the base currency from oil. And then you've got France saying the European Union should no longer consider themselves to be secondary to America, and they too want to get in on this, removing the dollar.
And you got
All of these
Mexico thinking
things
about
aren't going to
joining
happen.
BRICS.
That's exactly right. So Mexico's not playing. And if Claudia becomes president, she's not only is she very business minded, but she's either a second or third generation Israeli. Second generation, a third generation, but she's someone who, to the foreign community, if she becomes president, going to be someone that the foreign community and the foreign business community is going to consider to be very, very not only credible, but somebody that they can relate to.
Yes,
All of this
very,
means
very
to
lucrative.
you, yes, what it means is, think about Mexico and you think about investing in Mexico and even moving here, the idea that's been really great for several years. And I lived those years, where your dollar is like gold. You're just like, yeah, I got $1. I'm going far. Where you're going to have to start reflecting a little bit on even the concept of just earning dollars to spend in pesos, because we are slowly moving toward that space where I don't know if it'll even out. I mean, I feel like that's a little bit excessive, but we're slowly getting to that pace where your earning power goes down. So what does that mean for you and moving and business? And I think this is one of the questions you wanted to ask me, so I'll just preempt you with the question.
Yeah, cool.
When I think about business and doing business, and marketing, you asked me a question about marketing. I actually do not do business for foreigners. I actually do business for Mexicans.
Cool.
And this is part of the market research like you talked about. So there's a very specific
Yes.
reason for this. If you
Yes.
actually look at Mexico, Mexicans as a general matter don't like leaving Mexico. Like when they go on vacation, they vacation inside of Mexico.
Yeah.
There are very few Mexicans who will say, and maybe most of them have gone to the United States a couple times, that kind of thing, but that's about it. You're not going to be hearing about, oh, I was in China, I was in Italy. Like they don't roll like that.
No.
Mexico for them is home. Their moms are talking about, they're like, where are you going? You leaving Mexico?
They go to Los Cabos. They go to
that's it.
Guanajuato.
That's
Mexico
exactly where they
City.
go. They stay right here. And because no one's supporting you going, your mom is like, what? You leaving Mexico? Your mom's not trying to hear it. No one's trying to hear it for you, right? So you're hard pressed to leave. And quite honestly, there's a lot here. It's a very diverse country. You do everything. I saw somebody parasailing yesterday, and they talk about, you want to jump out of a plane, come, like you can do everything here. You can go cold,
Right.
Hot, the whole deal. So I get why they don't necessarily feel the need to leave. A good number of them don't have passports, even though Mexican passport will actually grant you to a good number of countries. They're like 12th on the list. Mm-hmm. So understanding that Mexicans don't leave, but they are still looking for different experiences. When I think about business, I think about the people who I know are going to stay here, because I've lived in enough countries and enough places to see and know, and I'm still on all the Facebook groups of all the different countries. Foreigners tend to be very transient. And what they tend to do at times is they'll go to a place and it'll be hot, all the foreigners there, like Costa Rica. Costa Rica was hot for a period. And now you've got a little bit of an exodus of foreigners from Costa Rica because of cost. So if you went and you did a business that solely catered to foreigners, now you're sitting and your business is going to end up being on the decline because your market is actually leaving. So for me, I'm not thinking about now, I'm thinking about 10 years from now. 10 years from now, the Mexican people will still be here.
Correct.
10 years from now, I don't know, the foreigners that come and go.
And the value of the peso is
and the value of the peso is rising. The middle class is growing significantly, and there's more and more interest and space in really great experiences for more and more people. Even at homes, I think I mentioned to you when we were talking before, they have really started to move into a space where they're offering mortgages for homes now. They're letting people pull out equity in their homes now. So the financial system is starting to look more like what you'd see in the States. So now they've got more access to home ownership, more financing options. They've got more options. That's right. So it's a different game now. And so, two things when I think about marketing, when I think about market research, I'm more into when I think about my market, the culture of the market and the long-term view. And then I would say, secondly, notwithstanding the fact that we're on social media and all right now, I actually am much more of a believer of what I call the background business. So I have two acronyms that I always kind of say to myself when I do a business. Be the boss, the business of self sustainability.
Mhm.
And second, your background business. Because again, when I look down the line, sometimes people are concerned about, people always say cartel. I always find that odd. Most people committing crimes are actually not in a cartel. Like there's a whole bunch of crime going on all over the place, all over the world. And these are single actors,
Everywhere
single
in the
people,
world.
their friend and their
Everywhere in the world.
cousin. Yeah, so yeah, so this idea that, I'm waiting around for cartel to find me, like probably not. But nonetheless, if I project 10 years down the line, and I'm always worst case scenario. I even did this, before I got married. I'm like, all right, before I get married, it's like, all right, look at him. Let's just drop an extra 60 pounds. Let's pretend he left the toilet seat up every night. And let's pretend he lost all his hair. Would you still get married? If the answer is yes, go ahead and walk down that aisle. If the answer is no, you might want to reflect, because you are not ready for it not to be exactly what it is right now. And that's how I
Right.
see business. If there's a downturn, am I ready? What am I going to do? Is there still a market for me to, even if I had to half my prices, right? Is there still
Yes.
a market for me to make profit? Background business, I'm a big fan of. I actually have lots of businesses. I don't talk about most of the
Yes,
businesses that I do
exactly. Yes.
because, again,
Yes.
one, I don't need people counting, but people will tend not to understand it all when they count. Just because you have business doesn't mean that you're not spending a lot of money to invest in the business. So it might look big, and maybe there's a lot of cash flowing through, but that doesn't mean that there's all this cash just sitting there,
Right.
and waiting. You know what I'm saying? And
And
so,
I also
and you
think
tend
it's
to attract.
mhm.
No, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, and then you tend to attract, quite frankly, vultures. Never feel as though, everyone who's talking to you is talking from a pure heart, especially when they
Right.
feel like there's something they can get from you. The more
Exactly.
you've got your background business, the more pure your relationships, can be. And to that
That's
end,
why
I
I
know
don't
I'm calling
expose.
out Lisa a lot. I've got to do
That's
one thing
why I
for
don't.
Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I don't expose everything. It's never good to expose your whole hand. You
Exactly.
know, and you only know what I allow you to know. You
That's
know what
it.
I'm saying? And people will try to count your pockets and think that they know everything that you have going on. And some of us are a lot more a lot smarter and strategic when it comes to money and investments and stuff like that, and we know that it's not always good to have all of your eggs in one basket, so
That's right.
and I also know that you know people feel like you should, and I hear this so many times, you should focus on one thing and perfect that one thing,
Yes.
and then just and it's like, well, I'm not a one thing type of mother. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a one thing type of
You know what
person.
I mean?
I'm a
Well, it's a mistake
multifaceted.
because when that one thing
Yeah.
goes, done.
What
So
else
the
do you
one
have to
thing,
fall back
like
on?
I think it's the complete opposite. Yeah, you need multiple
You need
things.
multiple streams of revenue
Because
these days in
you
today's
do.
society to thrive and to
Yes,
live the lifestyle that we live and to accomplish the things that we are set out to accomplish and to live out our purpose. We have to have multiple streams of revenue.
that's
Right.
correct. But
So we
I
were
got
talking.
one more thing
Go
on you
ahead.
in
Go ahead.
business
Go ahead.
though. Yes,
Go
and
ahead.
this
Go ahead.
is this comes from Lisa as well. So Lisa,
Yes.
if you're watching now or later, it comes from me. I don't always send it back to you. So Lisa today was, there was a question of signing agreements and paperwork and things like that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the paperwork in Mexico and just paperwork in general.
Yeah,
So the
that's where I was
first thing
going.
is, okay, well, look at that. See, the minds right
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So the first thing is that definitely get your paperwork right.
Yes.
I don't oh, it's Mexico, anything goes. Absolutely not. It goes until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, everything you work for is just going to be gone. And they'll wait you out, so you'll get a good run, you won't have your paperwork, you won't have your permits, and you'll happily be in business a year or two. And then there's going to be that time they're going to show up in your door and everything's going to be gone. So really, it's important to funny. Like I say that my English words are like Spanish now. They call it like regularizing your situation, right? That's just what you want to do. You want to regularize your situation. You want to really make sure that you are, don't let people say to you, don't worry about getting that paperwork, that license, that RFC, whatever. It's no big deal. I haven't done it. That's nice for you.
That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Nothing. Go get your done. The second thing I wanted to say with respect to paperwork is, and paperwork and ideas and even business ideas, and this actually, like I said, comes from Lisa. There was the question of what's enforceable in Mexico, specifically an NDA, and what's not. And I would say that when you're thinking about doing business with anyone or even talking to someone about business, if there's a part of you in your mind that says, I need to possibly protect myself from this person with some kind of written agreement, walk away.
Yeah, because that means
Don't
you
even
don't
have.
even trust the situation. That means your intuition is telling you that you need to. Yeah, but when I spoke with her, because she asked me as well, and I was just, saying when it comes to big projects, like large projects, and there's a lot of money or a lot of people involved, I would highly suggest you to incorporate some type of agreement or contracts, right? Just like how you have to
Yes,
sign
if you want to do
leases and
business together.
contracts for your property.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and then having a non-disclosure agreement for just in case you guys fall out or they choose to go elsewhere, they won't take those business ideas and the things that were discussed to other people. They won't try to go sell your idea to someone else. They won't try to go to the media and do interviews and expose things or try to slander you. So I do believe that they are needed in certain areas, but I also agree that if the energy is off or if something is telling you that there could be room of skepticism about doing business with this person, just don't even do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I have to, I say I disagree with you slightly in that
Yeah.
for me, it's
Hmm.
like if you're gonna someone, then they also have to have an equal incentive not to disclose.
Hmm.
So by the time that I've got to talk to you about a non-disclosure, then we probably shouldn't be doing the business. The second
Hmm.
thing is, you know, check who you're talking to, right? Like I talk to people all the time who literally detail their entire idea to me, like the entire blueprint, because they are
Right.
certain that I can't execute like they can. And that is
They
very
think.
true about a decent number of businesses. Yeah, because even if I tell you, I'm going to open up a luxury hotel, and you're like, yeah, you know what? I've seen this happen. Like I've talked to people about some of the things that we're doing now, and I've seen people almost parrot me, and it's like, oh, now I'm opening up a space too, and oh, I'm going to open up a co-working space too, and you know what? It doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form because one, I haven't shared with you all of the things that I'm going to do, and two, I know that I'm going to execute in a way that because you're not me, you can't possibly execute
You
like me.
can't
And
you can't
three,
clone it.
I
You can't clone it.
I don't believe that the pie there's like a finite pie. There is enough for all of us. There's as a matter of
Yes,
fact,
it
there's
is.
more than enough for all of us. We can
It
do
is.
more than survive. We can all thrive. And so if you want to take a version of my idea and you want to go to Baja California and you're like, I want to do a co-working, co-living space, not only
Mhm.
do I say bless you, I say, hey, let me know when you're open and we will
When
start
you're
making each other
open.
sister properties. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
I'm not in competition with anyone,
Right.
not even myself. It's not a competition. And like I
Mhm.
said, and then there's the question of enforceability, right? By the time you try to go to court in Mexico, like it doesn't work that way. It's really much more of it's money. It's money talks. You're trying to go to
Mhm.
court for something. That's not it. You don't want to get
You
into a
could
contract
be
with
surprised
anybody.
of
Honestly, they're most of the time not going to court.
how much stuff goes on that they and people probably spend money on, to rectify and enforce certain things, and it doesn't even make it. Some of the shit probably don't even make it to the courtroom. So I don't know. I guess it's just I would just say it depends
Now, does it
on
not make
who
it to
you're
the
dealing.
quorum?
Yeah, who you're dealing with,
Yes.
and I would look at it as being flattered, because we are indeed leaders in our own right, and that is something that I have experienced damn near my entire life. People stealing ideas, trying to copycat clone things.
Uh-huh.
I do
Mhm.
something and then, oh, now you got a radio show or now you got a TV. I've been doing this and outside of this in actual radio TV stations since 2016. I'm gonna be so blunt right now. I was doing this
Okay.
before people was podcasting.
Okay.
Okay. I was talking about investing in Bitcoin in 2015.
Wow.
2015.
Mhm.
So, I just look at it as, a sense of flattery, and then
Right.
I'm doing my job. They're paying attention. They're maybe they can do it better than me, or maybe they can
Yeah.
execute it and be successful at it. That's fine. I support you. I'm not a hater at all. Get your money. I feel the same way. Get your money. It's enough out here for everybody. I'm not in no competition with nobody because I'm rightfully in the league of my own. So and then I have these conversations with people and
That's right.
I give people ideas every day, all day. They'll call and they'll ask, and sometimes they execute, sometimes they don't. I've given certain
That's
individuals,
right.
some people might not have even known their purpose. And by the time they got off the phone with me, they got a whole nother stream of revenue. They got a whole nother way of doing
Yeah.
things. I can't specifically speak on the actual logistics of building a business in Mexico yet, and that's why we're having this conversation. So, as far as the developing and building in Mexico, right?
Yes.
When it comes to the title, do the
See.
would the buyers hold clear and protected titles to the properties, or like how does could you explain the title situation?
Okay. This is actually a great question and actually something very specific to the different states that you're in. So your transfer is recorded by a notary, and it is
Right,
put in these books that the notaries keep inside their offices, and that's actually at least what happens in Oaxaca. And then you do register it in the public registry. And so if you are looking, for example, and mind you, I should be very specific about this. This is very specifically the private property that's registered in the public registry. When you're talking about communal or Adijo land, they have different systems, and sometimes the whole communal land will be registered in the, but you don't actually know who the individual owners are inside of the communal land. So some people who are trying to make sure that no one knows what they have and what assets they have will buy communal land because they know that recording of the land, the fact that they own that land, won't show up anywhere. You can't go online and find out that they own that communal land. So, just an FYI. What happens is you make the transfer, the notary, kind of, makes note of the transfer and all of that. But then you need the state itself to issue you your deed. You're only going to get the, and then now it depends on the state. In Oaxaca, we are actually 1 year behind. We've got a 1 year backlog in terms of the government giving deeds to people. What that means for you effectively is when you get the deed officially, there's a transfer tax, usually between 4 and 5% of the cost of the sale. And you're supposed to pay the transfer tax when you receive your deed.
hmm
Because we're 1 year behind right now, you can buy a property today, record it in the notary. So you are the owner, but because you don't have the deed in your hand, you don't get that transfer tax, you pay until next year. So it's always important to know the rules, but then there's the
hmm
actual application and what's actually happening. So the reality is yes, you will ultimately own the property free and clear, but there's always a timing thing and governments involved
Yes.
and what's happening in your state, especially when there's a changeover. Like if you're buying property and your state is about to have a new governor, new mayor, new anything,
Could
seriously,
change.
get your stuff done. Really try to get it done before the new government comes in, because you are
Right.
going to have at least a 3 to 6 month gap between governments for all of your paperwork. So hustle. If your state is coming up with a new mayor, new governor next year, get that done, get your stuff written, because it's going to backlog once they do a changeover.
All right. So I did a little bit of research myself, because I think it is always good to, just like how you said, validate, verify. You just kind of want to make sure that she's giving us a lot of game right now, you guys, but still make sure you do your own research, right? So I just
Yes.
looked up some information, and it's saying, how should I title my property? A purchaser may title the property in any way. In any way, property could be titled in the U.S. in their individual name, a
Yes.
joint tenancy, or tenants in common, an individual or family trust, an
Yes.
LLC, or other U.S. corporation or partnership. This
Yes.
is a matter better determined by purchasers' U.S. legal or accounting advisors, as tax and legal consequences in Mexico are the same for a foreigner in Mexico, regardless of how the property is titled. We recommend to do it individually or through an entity. Please note, here in Mexico, family trusts are no longer permitted by most trustee banks, and we do not recommend it. So
Yes.
that opens. That's why I like doing research. Okay, that opens a whole nother door, because when people think about purchasing a property in another country, they're just thinking about purchasing it flat out in their name. So you can purchase it in your business
Yes.
name.
Well, there's a lot of different things there.
It's
In some
options.
cases, you don't have a choice, right? When
Mhm.
you're 50 kilometers from either the northern border or from a beach
Yes.
line,
Or the beach. Yes.
you have no miso, right? You've got to do the trust anyway. So the
Yes.
question that you need to ask yourself in this trust and in purchasing, because I always say we have to take it a step back.
Yes.
Purchasing a property in Mexico can be done, and that, to be honest, the in my opinion anyway, the best way is to be as a Mexican here matter, right? When you purchase the property for, I think the numbers right now around 250 USD or more, you then can be eligible immediately for permanent residency. You do the permanent residency for 4 or 5 years, then you're eligible to become a Mexican citizen. Once you become a Mexican citizen and you own that property, that is the strongest protection that you can have. Okay.
Because you're
When you're
Mexican.
talking about, because now you're a Mexican, that's right. So now you've got the
Yeah.
strongest protection. When you're talking about the fideicomiso, you're talking about the corporation. It's
Yeah,
not
that
the
was next. I
setup.
was gonna get into all of that next. Yep.
Yes, it's not the setup that I'm necessarily concerned about. There's two questions that I would always say you want to ask your attorney, and
Mhm.
probably one very, very important. I'm going to set this up now. How easy is it for me to get out of it or transfer it? Because you may come to a point where now you've started as a corporation, but you become a Mexican citizen and you want to transfer it out of the corporation. I can tell you right now, and Patricia, if you're watching this, there's a shout out to you. Patricia and Tally can tell you firsthand that it is no simple
That's
matter.
another OG.
Yes, she's the
Shout out
real
Patricia.
OG. I'm like a mini OG. She's the real OG. But it is
No,
it
it's
is it
quadruple
is
OG. We OG.
challenging to, that's right, to get it out of the corporation over to the name. So the real question is, what is, how can I get out of this? I even think about this one business. You start a business, you think about how the business might actually end. You get the corporation, how can I get out of it if I need to, right? But then second, which is really, really important, I find most people don't think about, you need to make sure and think about your plan for succession. Who can
Exactly.
I leave this property to
Two,
legally?
beneficiary.
And the
Yeah.
different types of owning
We're gonna get
property.
into all. I love the way
Okay.
yeah,
And
you saw the
okay.
questions that I gave you. So we're
Yes,
gonna,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
So I
And
want to pause real quick. I want to
so
pause real quick
okay, go
because
ahead.
yeah, I want to pause real quick because we are on the schedule, and we're already like an hour and 20 minutes in. But I want
Yes,
to make sure that our people get
I
as much
know.
information as possible. So I want to pause, and I want to let them, because we said fide comicio, but I want them to really understand these terms, right? Because even though we're here and we've heard it and we understand it, the people that are viewing and watching, they might not know what a fideicomiso is, right? So from what I've researched, fideicomiso in the restricted zone of Mexico, 100 kilometers from the border and 50 kilometers from the coast. A foreigner may purchase real estate only by means of a fideicomiso trust. A fideicomiso is a bank trust granted in a 50-year renewable term in which the trustee bank holds the property in trust for the beneficial use of the purchaser, beneficiary, right? While the
Yes.
trustee is the legal owner of the real estate, the beneficiary retains all ownership rights and responsibilities and may sell, lease, improve, mortgage, as well as will the property to heirs. Essentially, the beneficiary of the property enjoys all the rights he would if ownership were free simple. It's some more stuff, but I'm gonna just leave it at that for now.
Okay.
So that
So
is an accurate
that is actually
definition.
that's accurate. The
Okay.
only thing, and so I love these definitions because they always tell you how to get into it. They don't tell you how to get out. One question you
Right.
did have for me, which is accurate, you do have to pay the bank every year for their work as the
I
trustee,
was
and then they're
I
not
was
doing any
about to
work.
get into I was about to get
Um,
into the trustee bank next. Yep.
yeah, a couple of years ago, it was $500 a year. I have no idea what it is right now. The challenge I have with the fideicomiso, and it's kind of the same challenge I have sometimes in the United States when they come up with new legal workarounds, which is what the fideicomiso
Right.
is that there isn't a lot of established relative to the fideicomiso. It's fairly new. And so people now who are trying to get out of the fideicomiso or move things around, it's like a more challenging that they've said because they have a tendency here to create the rule first. And then it's like, oh, when something comes up, then now we're going to address it. So
Right.
it's just like any contract, you can shop. And that's actually very important too.
Yes.
Sometimes you work with a real estate agent or someone and they are like, oh, I'll take care of everything for you. I've got the notary, I've got the accountant, I'll set up the fideicomiso for you. And it makes
Mhm.
it feel like you don't have a choice. But the thing is, you can
Yep.
do, you can shop where your
I mean,
fideicomiso is,
we
shop the bank,
some of us
check the
like to ask.
terms.
Some of us are a little more hands on, and we like to ask questions, and we kind of like to know, a little bit of the ins and outs of the situation. We're not just gonna give our money, our name, and our info
Yeah,
to somebody and just hey, just do the work. So, I
that's
want
right.
to talk about trustee banks real quick. So, who is the trustee bank? The
Okay.
trustee bank is the Mexican bank authorized to act as a trustee fiduciario. The trustee bank must be a Mexican
Fiduciary.
registered financial institution with an established trust department. It is worth mentioning that the properties held in the trust are not assets of the bank, and size of the bank is not necessarily a sign of better trustee service. When deciding on the trustee bank, the notary will usually look for a trustee with a local empowered trustee offer. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is. And again, they're right. The notary will look, and I would say to that, one of the things I talk about, obviously, in the course is building your team.
Right.
And part of the people on your team is having that independent person who's going to go
Mhm.
around and get the information for you. So it's a
Right.
little bit more tedious. You're going to need,
Mhm.
translation and all of that. But you're looking for terms about succession. You're looking for the bank succession. Even the notary, I do the same thing. It's kind of like, okay, if you, and I've asked the notary that, I know they think I'm crazy. I'm like, well, what happens if you die? My stuff is sitting here in your office. Who do you have who's supposed to take this paperwork? What's the plan for succession for these
Right.
documents that are sitting in the office? So
So
those
you
are
know
the
what to
questions
ask.
to ask. And of course, how
Mhm.
do I get out of this? Yeah, how do you get out of this if you want to? How much is it going to cost me to get out of this if I want to get
Right.
out of it? How long will it
Yes.
take me to get out of it if I want to
Yes.
get out of it? So getting into it, everybody makes it seem very easy, and actually it is. You just sign and you go. Getting out of it, half the time they don't even know how you can get out of it.
Don't
You
even
know,
know how.
so
Yes. Yes.
so you want to know that your trustee knows how the relationship can end if that's your
Mhm.
choice.
Correct.
Because now once if you become a citizen, you no longer need to keep the because now you're a citizen that owns within 50 kilometers of the beach. So
I'm gonna ask
why
a
do you need
couple
to
more questions.
continue kind of keeping the land in them? Yes, see,
I'm
dígame.
gonna ask a couple more questions, and then we're gonna get into your specific co-working space. Now,
Okay.
how should I title my property? A purchaser may title the property in any way property could be titled in the U.S. in their individual name, either a joint tenancy or tenants in common, an individual or family trust. Oh, I did that already, right? Yeah, I
Yes,
did
we
it.
did. Okay.
So, okay, no, this is what it was.
Okay.
Can I? It was title insurance. That's what it was. Do I need title insurance? Title insurance is considered an insurance policy for property ownership. A title policy is the only monetary indemnification a buyer can obtain to guarantee ownership of Mexican real estate. Do they need title insurance?
So I'm assuming people maybe do it. I can't say that it's something that's very common here.
Necessary? Mhm.
Yeah, they'll really do a pretty good search, on the property, and they have pretty good deeds of it going through. Title insurance only becomes an issue when, especially if you're dealing with an older property and it
Mhm.
seems like there was one owner and that's the only person on record, but then,
Right.
the dad owned it and then he passed, but it turns out but only one brother's name was on there. So that's when things get tricky. But in when you're talking about condo units and those things, because especially by the beach, it tends to be those places, you don't have that issue, right? So you're really only talking about that possibly if you're getting an existing property off of a Mexican national. And because I've gone through the process of getting financing and all of that, even the financing companies don't require that. And they're actually the ones who are putting up the money. So you can, but it's not something that's done. Now, what I will say though, it's not done either, but you should do it. There is full insurance here for property, just like it is in the United States. Flood insurance,
That's what I was
earthquake
about to
insurance.
that's
Yeah.
what I was about
All
to ask because that's something that a lot of the property owners that I've experienced, renter's insurance. It might not be the same as on homeowners insurance, but we when you're renting, you need to protect
yeah.
your goods as well. So that's something that
Yes.
I haven't heard too many people talking about. And when I ask, certain property owners, they say, "Hey, if you want it, get it." Do you have any references that people could use in Mexico for renter or property insurance?
So renters, no. I can't say I've ever gotten renters insurance. Property insurance, no either. I don't even remember the name of the people. Like I know the people, I'd have to look it up. So I'll send it
Right.
to you, like when I'm
Okay.
done.
Okay. Cool.
I do recommend on the situation, right? Some places you're in a hurricane line, some places you're kind of on a fault line.
Yes. Yes.
So in don't do it is because generally speaking, if your house is built well, the cost of repairing is not that big of a deal, but the cost of the insurance is really like negligible either. You had a question for me about taxes, property taxes. So your
Yep. I was
property
going there.
taxes, at least in Oaxaca, is about 1% of the cost of the property. So
Mhm.
you're talking about a few $100s a year, at best, is what you're paying. And you just go down to the municipal office. They send you, the little form. You go, you pay it. Everybody moves on. It's not a situation like in the States, I can't remember the exact term, but like in the States, if you don't pay your taxes after a certain period, they put a lien. And then once there's a lien, somebody can come in and buy the
And
tax
buy it.
lien and
Right.
then actually take over your property. So you can't do that here. You're not
So
going to be able to and do that
this
kind of
is
system.
the Isabi, correct? The
You know, say what it's. Mhm.
Impuesto sobre adquisiciones de bienes inmuebles is also known as the acquisition tax. The tax is assessed on every
Oh,
transfer
that's
of real
different.
estate. Oh, this is a
Yeah, no,
different
that's totally different
tax.
tax. Yeah, no, I'm talking about your yearly property tax. Your transfer
Oh,
tax
property
is what I was
tax.
talking about
Okay, okay,
before
okay,
with
okay,
the
okay.
deed.
I see it. I see it. That was
Yeah. So
okay.
that's your
So
yearly property taxes.
right,
Yeah, that tax is the deed, the transfer tax, and that's the 4 to 5% typically of the cost. But you only pay that when you actually get your deed physically in your hands. So it just
right,
depends on your state. When you want to find out in your state, and you can definitely ask people beforehand, where are they? Are they giving out deeds immediately? Are they taking time to give out deeds? Like, what's the deal? And then you'll know whether or not you're paying that. You're almost never paying that at closing. but you'll know how soon you're going to have to pay that money based on where the state you're in, like based on what they're doing with the deeds.
This is so dope. You're like 10 steps. Every time I ask a question, you're like 10
No.
steps ahead. That's the next question. So and then I look up when, and how do I pay property taxes? The only taxes due annually, well, this is specifically for Los Cabos, and like you said, they're different in different cities.
Yes.
So if payments made by the end of January, you're generally given a 15% discount, and by the end of February, you are generally given a 10% discount. And this is for Los Cabos property tax.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the annual fees, the annual trust fees to the trustee bank, how much is that in Oaxaca?
So a couple of years ago was $500 a year. I don't know what
No,
it is now at all. Yeah,
okay,
but that's what it
you
was.
just
So you have
come
a
out.
general, yeah,
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 yeah. So the
just pay
one
money.
there is saying between 464 and 812 USD, including a 16% IVA. All right, and then
IVA.
does it matter what bank they use? Because I've noticed that some people, there are some U.S. banks that do finance properties here. I know HSBC is one. Does it matter what bank, or do they, when you find the real estate agent, I'm sure they find the lenders, but what if you want to go through a specific bank? Would that be your U.S. bank's job to find a lender, or you just leave that completely up to the real estate agent?
Okay. So that obviously I covered much more detail in the course, but
Right,
the
right.
short version is that your real estate agent, and again, I probably a little bit kind of in Oaxaca, like typically financing has been done in Mexico. Either you pay all out in cash or it's seller financing, like it'll be a condo unit or whatever, and they'll tell you you do different, you do payments or what have you. So that's typically how
Mhm.
it's been. So most real estate agents don't have the information that you need about your financing options. That's actually something
Correct.
you need to go take a look at
And do
yourself.
your own
So there
research.
are,
Yes.
yeah, so there are banks that will finance you, and I list them for you kind of in the course, and what some of the what's really in the course, which is very detailed, is again, you know about the question financing. Absolutely. The real question is, based on your particular financial situation, what is it that they're going to ask you for? And they tend to give you that information after the fact, after you've already started your application, which is very annoying, because if you knew you needed, this document, or you needed to show this beforehand, you would have prepared before you started. And then they tell you, no, you can't do it because you don't have this. So that's kind of in the course.
Correct.
All the documents I was asked for, specifically as a person who is self-employed, so who does not have a W-2. They asked me for some very different requirements and more
Hmm.
requirements than they asked from somebody who would have been a W-2. But they
Right.
didn't tell me that initially. The other things change rapidly, right? 1 minute, this is the number that they can do. There's this other, now they've changed the rules. They've changed the rules on your credit score. They've changed the rules on how much they can lend, income ratio. So
Yes.
the rules change very quickly as well.
Yes.
And that's again when you start talking about the research. It's be careful with research a little bit.
Yes.
And I'm with you too, because I'm actually supposed to go out for dinner with the whole crew in 7 minutes. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
talk
got a few
fast.
minutes. We got a,
But
yeah, we got a
research,
few minutes.
okay, so research, very important. In Mexico, unlike probably some other places, old research is problematic because things change. The rules change so much that if
It's
you're reading
changing
an
so
article
rapidly.
from
Yes.
2 years ago,
Yes.
yeah, it may not be accurate. So you might feel like, yeah, I got
Correct.
it, and you don't. So really check the date, the expiration date on that research, because even when I was going through the process of looking at the different financing options, and I'm proactive. So even before I thought I might need financing options, I just wanted to research anyway. So a year
Right.
before I researched, I got all the information. I said to myself, I'm good. If I need it, this is what I have to do. When I called them to actually do it, then it was like, oh, it's this other thing now, and I had my whole list like set out. But a
Hmm.
year is a year too late. So when you research, check the date, make sure it's
Yes.
very, very current.
Credible and current. And I'm
That's
so
it.
glad that I was able to have this conversation with you because we learned so much. But I do want you to talk a little bit about the co-working space and your specific development in Oaxaca.
Okay. So I'll give you the 2 second version.
And then we'll get into the
Like I
course.
said,
Yeah, we're done.
yes. Okay. Well, I'll do it all with you for you. And actually, I'll
Yep,
make it kind of all come together. The reason the course
yep.
exists is because basically, you asked me a question, who am I? The very short answer to who am I is I am a dreamer. I have lots of dreams, and my whole reason for being alive is to make those dreams into reality. And so one of the
Yes,
dreams was to have a space that, we would have loved to be able to go to when we were doing all our travels. We had all, you have all these issues, right? The hot water's not working, they don't have plugs, all these little things that
yes,
for me, it was, it was for both of us. It was like, okay, if we had, this would have been our perfect place in all the different countries that we went to. So it was
right.
kind of our dream for a little while to kind of bring this together. And it was very possible in Oaxaca. So we started off with, the purchase, and we had the dream. We kind of did all the architectural thing, gutted the house, all of that. And in the midst of, executing on this dream, there were a lot a lot of things I just did, just like we talked about today, the small details. Yes, you can get a
Yes,
fideicomiso, but how do you get out? Yes, you can
right,
get materials, but where do you go to get the materials, right? Even though I
right.
researched a lot, there were huge gaps in the information that I had.
Yes, you
And
did have,
so
right.
I started thinking, you know what? I need to chronicle this, and I need to put this in a course so that people can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to bother. Because for some people, you're gonna take the course and you're gonna be like,
This is a
this is a lot of
lot. I don't
work.
want to do
Yeah, I
it.
don't know about all that. Good for
Can I just
her,
pay you to
but
do it for me?
yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
might
I
say
might
to
be
yourself,
able.
no way am I going through this nonsense. Or you might say to yourself, oh, okay, you take in your notes and you say to yourself, all right, now I know these are the questions to ask, and I'm going to ask the questions, and I'm armed and ready. So that's how the course
Yes,
came about, and that's how the space is. So the vision, La Soleil, is the Soleil is Creole version of sun. That's how you spell
correct.
sun in Creole. And it is basically our space is the place of the sun. And it is a place
Yes,
where we want people to come in and feel good.
yes,
It's we open up instances, because another wonderful thing that I learned, Viva Mexico, that as much as you might have in your mind time frames and all of that, at some point you've just got to open and go with it, because you're literally gonna die before the thing ends, right? So you just need to go with what you have and continue adding to it. So it's going to be
yes,
some time before the complete vision is real. The course was kind of showing through it, and so that people can see, what started, what went wrong, what we thought first, what we didn't. And ultimately the space for us is a space where, almost like Cheers, right? Where people know your name, you remember it, and you talk to me about
right,
marketing.
correct.
We are not the hyper, like, you're not going to see me on social media a lot putting the things out, what have you. In
Yes,
all my businesses, this is the most social I've ever been on social media. I've not ever done this before. I am very much a word of mouth kind of person. Almost
yes,
all my business comes through referrals. They say you should
yes.
go talk to her, et cetera, et cetera.
It's
And that's
better
how I
that way
roll.
because it's normally
Yeah,
the right people versus you just
exactly.
having a
Then
bunch
just
of
this
random people.
random,
If they've
yes,
been referred, more than likely they're vibrating on the same frequency, or they're serious about their business, or
that's exactly right.
it's definitely in
Yes.
alignment. So yeah, that's how I move too. Most of my business comes through word
Yes,
of
that's
mouth.
right. Yeah.
So the
So that's how
course,
La
if
Soleil is going
you
to be. So this will probably be one of the
yeah.
last times that I'm like very, out on the La Soleil,
Oh,
because
appreciate it.
I know, yes, I'm going back to the background like I normally do. And for me, the business speaks for itself. It's
Yes.
about the business. It's not about me. It's about how
Yeah.
you're treated, how well you have, all of that.
Yes.
I'm just the vision, but the
Yes.
business has got to
Speak for
be a
itself.
space where people are saying, yes, this is a space that I want to be.
This is where I want to be. This is where I'm comfortable at. I can get everything. I don't have to do anything. Everything is here. It's a complete concierge service. Is laundry, entertainment, everything.
That's
I'm
it.
good to go.
That's it. You're
Yep.
on vacation, and you should be. You know,
Yes.
even if it's for
So
3 months.
let everybody know like the cost of the course, and let them know about the special with the affiliate link, and also close out with giving them your information if they ever need to contact
Okay. So you probably can't contact me because I
you. Or
am background
the
business.
website, the
So,
website,
I
the
mean,
website.
yeah, okay. I
Give
mean, I
them the
don't get me wrong.
website.
Okay, so I am willing to consult. So you can, if you go to the website, mexicohomebuyingcourse.com, you can press the button, book a consultation. My schedule is there, and I'm very good about my schedule. So if you book a consultation with me, I will happily talk to you. When you book the consultation, I do have a section that says, "What questions do you have?" And really, I recommend that you really put it there, because I will absolutely do the homework, do the research. I'm not here to waste your time, and just chit chat. It's like, if you're gonna pay me for the information, I really want to make sure that you have the
Yes,
information.
right.
So the course is, I am running a special now. So it was $399. I am running the special for $149. You're obviously one of my affiliates. I am a big believer in Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, eventually you get what you want.
Yes, correct.
So for me, actually all the course sales, if you will, are through like-minded people, affiliates, people who I feel like their audience
Yes,
will benefit.
to
Because
use
I'm
it.
not, I mean, it probably sounds crazy. Yeah, I'm not trying to be like a YouTube star. I'm not trying to,
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I'm
not.
in Puebla.
Yeah,
Nobody's like, hey, is that you, Suki? No, nobody's saying that because they
right,
don't
right.
know.
No,
And
we
that's
don't need
good.
that.
Like, yeah, I don't need all that extra in
That's
my life.
peace.
Yes, I'm at peace. I
Yes,
walk down the street, and whether I did my hair, I didn't. No one's taking pictures. So
right.
for me, I'm like the A team. If you find me, it's because it was the right time, and I'll be there.
And
So the
you were
information, it was
supposed
the right
to.
time for you to find the
Yes,
information. That's it.
yes,
But I'm not
yes.
gonna, I'm not going on some then, like, we're not doing all that. It's
Yes,
really,
correct.
it's legitimately for the information. And it's obviously easier for me to, because I think the last time I checked, there were like 66 people who bought the course versus
That's
me
good.
spending 66 hours, right? Can you imagine? And it'd be more than that because it's so much
Man,
information.
listen, if they knew, if they only knew, it took forever for me to do my courses. And, even though people record their courses differently, it costed a lot of money to produce mine, like to do my courses, and then to digitize the paperwork and to design the covers, and just it's really time
It's a lot of
consuming.
work.
But
It is.
for your people, it's worth the sacrifice, because you want them to have access to the information. You want them to have an easier way out. You want them to be able to know how to do it, and at least have the opportunity to be able to say whether or not it's something that they want to do, or whether or not credit is something for them, or real estate in Mexico is for them. So at least they
That's
have
it.
the option.
That's it. And if you
Thank
think
you
about the
so much.
time, it would have taken me the amount of hours for 66 people. Like, there's no way I'm giving that. I'm not doing that. That's excessive. So
Yes,
it was just a way. How do you give the information out to the people who really want it and they can demand, and watch over and over again? So I don't have to repeat myself. You don't have to take notes the
yes.
first time. You can just keep pressing the button
Yes, exactly.
over and
And it's
over again.
always
It's
there, and
simple.
you can
So
work it at your own pace. And it also comes
that's
with
it.
a checklist. It comes with a checklist journal, and a lot of the other
Yes.
information. I am going to be purchasing it and learning and studying. You guys know I'm an info junkie. I have so many different courses on from real estate to stocks to credit to, it's so much. But I love engulfing myself in information and education, because that is really what moves the nations, and our people suffer due to lack of knowledge. So if you do have some people who have information and courses that provide value, I would highly suggest you to investment, and you will make a return on your investment. And even if you decide not to execute it, specifically, I'm
Yep.
sure she can help, or find someone to help you execute it. All right. So this is the Real Right Show. We are live and in full effect each and every last Sunday of the month. This has been an amazing interview. Suki, do you want to give a shout out to anybody before we close the show?
And I gave my people. So, always Lisa, thank you for putting us together. Patricia, who
Yes.
was the first person I took before we even got into the business, I took a course with Patricia and Tally on doing business in Mexico. and that was very, very
She
useful
does has a
instrumental.
course too, huh? She do have a
Well,
course.
she did it live. And I was telling her at
Oh,
the
okay,
time, I
okay.
was like, Patricia, you gotta record this thing. So I know you're watching, Patricia, at some point, record it. So we took it
Yeah,
live, and
record
yeah,
it, and if you need
yes,
me to digitize it or turn it into a booklet or something, I'll show you how to put it together and put that bitch on Amazon, get you some bread real quick, for real. That's what we here
yeah,
for. You know what I'm
so
saying?
I told her put
Teamwork
it
made
out.
the dream work.
Yes.
Yeah, people need that
So
information. We're in
she was very
we're
instrumental. Yeah.
positioning. Yeah, positioning is very important right now. And even if you don't, have the tools or the resources to do certain things, our people need the information. And God is sending the right people at the right time to execute certain things. So just like how I do, utilize my resources, utilize your resources as well. I'm here for my people. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I
So my
appreciate it.
okay.
This
Wait,
has
couple more
been
shout outs.
great. Yes, go ahead.
Two more shout outs I have for you.
Yeah.
Because we talked about, yes, because we just talked about looking at different places too. So
Yes.
Michelle in San Miguel Allende, she does like a relocation tour, and she's been there, and she's really a great resource because I'm just a really big fan. You should go to the different places,
What's her
and if you
name
don't have a
again?
lot of time, especially Michelle, she's in San Miguel Allende,
Okay.
and she has her space is called Casa Elm, and she does like relocation tours, and she does like, you can go there and she will actually take you through the town, so basically saves you time. I know sometimes people
Oh
balk at paying
wow.
relocation tours. Like
Right.
I'm gonna do relocation tours. It'll take you 6 months to figure out Oaxaca. You spend 2 weeks with me and I'll give you the
It's
scoop.
crazy. I had a
You know what I'm saying?
conversation with the real estate agent Jonathan Anderson here, and we spoke about this on my well, we did it off air, but we talked about creating a real estate tour. We ain't gonna get into too much details, but yeah.
Yeah.
So what Michelle, what was her last name? Or you can send it to me.
Shame on me. I don't even know it. Yeah, I'll send it to
Don't even
you.
worry about it. Just
But
send it to me.
eventually,
Yeah.
if you want to do that, like in my ideal world, we are all in our different places doing that. And so somebody
Yes.
says, I've got 6 months in Mexico. You do 2 weeks in San Miguel Allende. You do 2 weeks in
To
Oaxaca. You do
here.
2 weeks in Puerto
Yes.
Vallarta.
And we
You know
can
what I'm saying? And
refer
so
them
all of
to
us with the exactly. And so you've got a
that's a
group of
dope
people across
idea.
Mexico. You know what I'm saying? That you can really, and then you'll know your space
I just felt
by doing all of this.
chills. I
So,
just felt
I'm here
chills.
for you in Oaxaca. So, let me know. I'm down,
Let's make it
and
happen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Who
So
else? You had somebody else.
yes, I feel like I've got all the people. So yeah, we've Wendy. I feel like that show. I'm older than you, but there was a
Definitely
show. It was
Wendy.
like reading rainbows. Like they were
Reading
calling out your
Rainbow.
name. Yeah, I feel like I'm that person right now. Like, who do I have to remember? So we have Wendy. Obviously, we have Lisa. We have Michelle. We have Dula. Dula's actually out in Tijuana. She's from South Carolina as well, and
And
she
major
does
shout out
doula
to
on the move.
Nubia Young, Black in Tulum. Major shout out to her. She's over there
Tulum,
making moves
yes.
over there in Tulum. Her Facebook group is at probably about 30,000, and they have events weekly. So yeah, we definitely do have somebody, in a couple different parts that are making moves. And I definitely, like I said, I believe positioning is very important in these days. And I think the right people, I think we can come together and make magic for sure.
I think so too. All right, my kids are calling
Make it
me, and
happen.
they're doing that whole
Thank you
deal.
so much. I
Okay.
enjoyed the interview. Keep in touch and we will holler.
Yes,
All right.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. All right, y'all. Benji, the ruler, Street Secrets of Mafia, I Mob ENT CEO. We are live and in full effect. That was the first time in a long time I did 2 hours straight. A lot of valuable, valid information. Make sure you guys tap in and purchase her course. It is a lot of information inside that course, and it will definitely help you to save some time, some money, and some energy. It is a dope compilation of information and resources if you are looking to buy real estate and develop in Mexico. Benji the Ruler, we're live and in full effect. Let's go. Peace, protection, prosperity. Oh, I didn't even end the broadcast. You already know the vibes, man. Let's go.